Week 11 waiver wire. Let's get it started. Do you have questions at quarterback? Don't worry, I got you. Kyler Murray needs to be at the top of your list. This is one of the best receiving cores Kyler has ever had with Trey McBride and Marquise Brown. He's gonna get it done throwing the ball and rushing it. An absolute must grab. Joshua Dobbs just keeps getting it done. 25 fantasy points in 3 straight weeks. Next up, he has Denver and Chicago. I am not afraid. And he's gonna get back Justin Jefferson at some point. If you need a quarterback, run to the waiver wire to grab Josh Dobbs. I told you to start him last week, and I think you should start him this week too. Geno Smith. 24 fantasy points last week, and he goes up against the Rams. I'm not as afraid as I was last time he played the Rams. I think Geno has a solid game. Are you weak at wide receiver? Don't worry, I got you. Noah Brown, back-to-back weeks with 24 or more fantasy points. We don't know if Nico Collins is gonna play this week, and if he doesn't, I think Noah Brown is a fantastic start. And even if he does, I think he's still viable. Brandon Cooks absolutely popped off this week. Going up against the New York Giants, my man had 10 targets. I think the Cowboys are gonna do to the Panthers exactly what they did to the Giants. Dominate. Brandon Cooks is gonna get involved. Tyler Boyd, we don't know if T. Higgins is gonna play this week, and if he doesn't, Tyler Boyd is gonna pop off. 12 targets is absolutely incredible, and he should have had a touchdown, but he dropped it. Gross. Baltimore matchup isn't the best, but I do think that Tyler Boyd is going to be viable. And some wide receivers that I think you should keep an eye out for. Raheem Shaheed, he's currently on bye, so people will be dropping him. I definitely think that he is worth a stash if you want a boom or bust play that could win you a week. Now that Kyler's back, I think that Michael Wilson should be more valuable. I think he's worth a stash. And Jayden Reed looks like a pretty solid target. Not a big fan of Jordan Love, but Jaden's had double-digit fantasy points in 3 of the last 4 games. Not bad. Are you having a rough time with running backs? Don't worry, I got you. Devin Singletary. This guy destroyed me in a few fantasy leagues last week because I had to play against him. My man popped off. 150 rushing yards? Are you kidding me? Grab and start this fool, especially if Damian Pierce is out. Alexander Madison got knocked out of the game with a concussion. I think Ty Chandler is gonna be the starting running back. Definitely worth an ad. Keaton Mitchell keeps getting it done. 14 or more fantasy points in back-to-back games. Yes, he's getting touchdowns, but he's fast, and the Baltimore Ravens are a good offense. Don't love the Cincinnati matchup, mainly because it's a divisional matchup, but I think that he's worth a long-term grab if you got the spot. Some other running backs to keep your eye on: Donta Foreman, Khalil Herbert, Rico Dowdle, because the Cowboys are gonna be blowing out the Panthers. Antonio Gibson, who has had 5 receptions in 3 straight games. And Ezekiel Elliott, who was on bye, but got 13 carries last week. Not bad for a spot start. Also, check to see if Jaylen Warren is out there, because if he is, I think he's going to be a fantastic long-term ad. Don't really love him this week against Cleveland, but if we're talking long-term, I think Warren is worth a stash. Are you having a tough time at tight end? Don't worry, I got you. Trey McBride, who is barely 50% rostered. This guy is blowing up. He's getting the targets, and he's incredibly talented. Grab him immediately. Even if you have a top tier tight end, grab Trey McBride. This is trade week. You should be able to flip him for a good profit. I'm not in love with these other 2, but they are tight ends that are getting targets. Logan Thomas, they're going up against the Giants. I think the Commanders have a pretty good game. And Tyler Conklin's had back-to-back games with 6 or more targets. You love that for a tight end. And he's had 5 weeks this year with double-digit fantasy points. Not bad. Are you desperate for a defense? Don't worry, I got you. The Detroit Lions. Yes, I know they had -2 fantasy points last week, but they go up against the Chicago Bears, who are not good at football. Fire up your Lions. Next up, the Commanders. Yes, they have not been great, but picking fantasy football defense is about the matchup. The New York Giants are absolutely terrible on offense. The Washington Commanders are must starts. It's a busy time for fantasy football, everybody. Trade deadlines are coming up in a lot of your leagues. You know I gotta give you some tips and tricks. And on top of that, we're gonna talk more about the NFL and where we are in the season. Some teams are overperforming and some are underperforming expectations. We'll get into all of that this week. Good luck on the wire, everybody. Peace.